Greetings, I'm Caffeine Rage, and I'm back with the Sunday Sampler. This week we're going to be taking a quick look at the Raven Remastered. This was originally developed by King Art and published by THQ Nordic, and as per usual, this is a review copy. So, the Raven Remastered, this is a re-release, or a remastering, hence the name right there, of the original game, The Raven Legacy of a Master Thief, released in July of 2013. So this is a re-release of about a 5-year-old game. Not quite, but thereabouts. And this is an interesting one. So let's just go ahead. I'm going to start up a new game, completely unusual for me, because usually I jump in at about the couple hour mark, but I'm at the point in my playthrough where I've just hit the second chapter, and starting the second chapter would give away a good chunk of the first chapter, I believe. This was originally released as an episodic game with 3 parts. All 3 parts are in play in the remastered edition, at least I think. I know at least the first 2 are. So it stands the reason that the third one is there already. I just haven't unlocked it yet because I haven't gotten to it. So let's start up a new game. Yes, I'll overwrite the autosave. Because this gives some pretty pictures in the background while I talk about the overall feel of this game. This game is heavily inspired by the Agatha Christie novels. Particularly, at least 2 that I've noticed in the first chapter was The Orient Express and Death on the Nile, which takes place on the Orient Express, which we'll see here in just a little bit. And, well, this one takes place on a cruise ship in the Mediterranean, but same basic idea. This game really wears its inspiration on its sleeve, as the music really picks up and it's hard for me to hear myself chatter away. And depending on how you view that, that's either a plus or a minus. It's really dependent on if you enjoy the inspirational material, because Agatha Christie isn't for everyone, obviously. I mean, detective novels are kind of falling out of favor these days, so really wearing your inspiration like this kind of limits your audience, but then again, that may not be such a case for the point-and-click genre, as we see a little bit of the new lighting and new animations. So let's just go ahead and talk about that while we have the intro playing along. This game was remastered from a 5-year-old game, and I have to say that comparing the two, because you do get the original if you get the remastered, and vice versa. If you already had the original, you've gotten the remastered already, and it's in your Steam library just waiting for you to download it. If I just saw screenshots of the two and compared them, I would have gotten it completely backwards, because I have to admit that the remaster looks a lot more, I'm not sure if I want to say washed out or just brighter, because it's very distracting. The original game had a very dark, almost noirish look to it, particularly in some of the early sections, which I will admit that I haven't gone too far into the game in the original version. I focused on the remastered version because that's what we're working on right now. And it really depends on your taste, because the original game was more dark. It was a lot more broody like this. But everything just looks so washed out. It doesn't really have the... as we get the title screen. It doesn't really have the depth of shadows. And they talk about the remastered animations, and I gotta be perfectly honest, I just don't see it, because a lot of the animations are rather jank at times. They're a little bit buggy, and kind of funnily, there's a lot of clipping to the point where I'm not sure if we actually saw it on that intro, because I was sitting here chattering away, where you'll see characters pick up something, but the animation isn't quite lined up to the object, so they'll clip through. There's a person that you meet later on in the first chapter who has their hair, they have a kind of a high ponytail, and their ponytail is clipping through their hat. And that same character also, well, did a rather extreme face palm as she stuck her hand through her face. A little disturbing, to say the least. But the fact that that's remastered doesn't really say much. Then again, this is also a budget title, so that may just be something that slipped through. Maybe it's something that got past QI, or QA I should say, as we have the Orient Express right there. And I have to say that on the cutscenes they look a lot better, because in the original this is very washed out on the outside of the train, while the inside is very dark. And well, like I said, depending on what your tastes are, it really depends on what you prefer.
Hands up!
As we meet our playable character.
I don't have time to play. I'm on duty.
Lovable chap, isn't he?
You're funny, but you don't look like a real cop. You don't even have a revolver.
What's your name, boy?
My name is Matthew Miller.
And where are you from, Matthew Miller?
From Dillsburg, Pennsylvania. But my mom and I live in England now. She's taking care of some rich old lady. We're on our way to Venice at the moment. We're taking a cruise on a big ship.
Impressive. You've already
I took a big ship once. Oh wait,
spent my entire
that's a
life
boat, isn't
in
it?
Switzerland.
Must be really boring.
And what's with the gun? What do you need it for?
It's the Raven. He was gunned down, so now I need a pistol.
Dead birds don't need guns. Nor do live ones.
You don't know who the Raven is, do you? He's the greatest burglar ever. He stole paintings from the Louvre, and those priceless eggs with gold and diamonds and stuff. And Bobby Dobbs says he replaced the crown jewels with rhinestones.
I know who the Raven was. Although I don't
I'm just
quite
letting the dialogue play a little bit so you could hear a kind of the style of the writing, but also a little bit of the quality. I have to say that the voice acting is done really well. Granted, this is also in the original.
You do know.
So we'll just go ahead and click through, or at least continue on.
Raven 2 days ago.
You may want to notice the color banding on his shirt right here. Oh, as we have a dead boy right there just looking. But some color banding on his shoulder. That's not a compression artifact. That's actually in the game. The shadows aren't exactly crisp. Or I should say they may be a little too crisp.
Or did he pull a gun on you?
There's no anti-aliasing either, because you can see some of the jaggies on his collar, for example, and the camera loves to show off the weakness of the graphics at times like that.
Appreciate the support of the Swiss police, but it'd be better if you'd remain seated and keep an eye on things.
But monsieur, your journey on this train is most unusual. Is it related to the burglary at the British Museum?
Not in the least.
You are a terrible liar.
What's that for?
I'll let you know if
to keep things safe.
Help, Constable. If you'll excuse me, I'll be in the first freight car at the back of the train for the rest of the trip.
I'm not here to enjoy the beautiful scenery.
But I love to watch you leave. Oh wait, I got that wrong.
And I have finally honed powers of deduction.
Thanks to that?
I watched the people on the platform in Zurich. I know, for example, that
excuse
man
you.
over there is a violinist.
That would be more impressive if there weren't a violin case next to him.
And I believe that the gentleman in the next carriage is a German doctor on his way to Italy to take up a new position.
See some more jaggies on his arm there, and well, actually all around him. Like I said, there's no real anti-aliasing here. The shadows are a little rough. It doesn't look like a remastered, to be perfectly honest.
Too much luggage.
It looks like they just went over the lighting and turned everything up, to be perfectly honest. I'll just let this play out completely then.
Constable
Zellner.
Constable Zellner. If you're such a clever fellow, what am I doing on this train?
You're guarding something, of course.
I think you're guarding something.
Oh, really? And what might it be?
Could it possibly be a jewel that's making a long and perilous journey?
You're guessing. You can't possibly know what's inside the safe.
But if
I know
that
it's
were
inside the
case,
safe, but then
then
again, I played the
What
first
the
chapter
train
already.
wasn't crawling with police.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
You've got a vivid imagination. I'll give you that. Well, that is impressive, I admit. But the fewer people involved, the better. We'll get along fine without you.
You won't.
He's very persistent, isn't he?
Pardonnez-moi.
I can help, and I will help. You're in my country.
For
and
now.
I've been ordered to assist you, and that's exactly.
But
what I'll
he's
do.
from
Whether you
Switzerland,
like
so
it
it's not going to stay in that
and
long.
Stubborn. Your commitment speaks volumes, Zana. But this is my show, and I don't need you. Bon voyage.
But how do you know?
I just do, because I have an outrageous accent.
Oh, hello.
You
Oh dear
cheated.
God.
I did what?
saw
I forgot how
him
ridiculous
turning
that
off on the
pose
platform.
is.
He told you everything himself.
I just kind of
You
clicked through
were
this
just
before
pretending
when I
to
was
two
testing
and two
on the
together.
original
And what
version.
of it? Do you know who that is? That's Inspector.
I will say that the
Nicholas
hair is a lot
Leroy.
more impressive
You
in the
have to
remastered
impress
version.
him if you want
In
to
the
work with
original, the hair looked a lot more
him.
wooden.
You really tell on me?
Doesn't have as much
To the
grain or...
policeman who shot
Actually,
dear
that's
Raven?
probably not the
Whoa. It was
not the proper term if I want to say it looks less
Hunted
wooden,
and
but
killed
you can see
Europe's
more
most
individual strands. It
famous
looks
burglar. That's how
more
it
like
was
hair
started.
that's
I
been,
won't
well,
tell him a thing.
I wouldn't
kind
either.
of controlled.
All right, Matthew. I have to do my work now.
Now get the hell out of my face.
Matt, well, except for my mom. She calls me Maddie, as if I were a little kid.
But you can see also some blockiness on the shadows over here as well, on the
Maybe
wall.
I can change his mind.
Nah, I'm
All
good.
right.
I don't know, maybe I should have checked the tutorial because it had some very hilarious item clipping, but that's probably not a great example, but you can see some of the blockiness of the shadows that I was talking about right there, for example. You can see how it has that phantom movement. And in the original game, I was going to do a nice sweeping shot here, but the original game didn't want to record properly in this section, so unfortunately we can do that, where in the violence, for example, was cast a lot more in shadow because, well, look at the light source, where the light source is coming from the windows on the left, while he's sitting with two shades right there, but he's still really well lit. He's not in shadow really at all. Matter of fact, let me see if I can... Will you stop that? Yeah, you can see how he's really well lit. He's in shadow a little bit, but not as much as you expect. But yeah, that's a good example of what I was talking about. And I keep going back to here because this game is very, very old-fashioned in its design, for better or worse. I'll leave that up to you because it does some interesting things. For one, well, you may notice that there's no indicators on where to leave the area. You just click and change scenes. And there's a lot of camera cuts. It's a very... Boy, this is going to be a dirty word to use, but cinematic. We'll see when we get into another conversation here in just a moment, where it acts a lot more like a detective movie, where it tries to show the reactions of people a lot clearer than really a standard point-and-click adventure. Also, you may notice this right here. A point gauge. It's not quite the old school Sierra where you have a maximum points. Instead, this is kind of like that, but it's also used to to kind of discourage you from using the hint system too much if you're the type that really cares about the point system, because there are hint systems in this game, even though it doesn't really, well, hint at them all that well. For one, we have the journal, which we'll open up now. We have a couple things here, but we can click secrets, and occasionally something pops up here where it gives me a hint. And I could spend those points that I get as I complete the case or unlock things, completing little side objectives, because there's more than just the main case. There's little side things as well, and side things that I could discover. That I could spend these points that I get to unlock those. And also there's the hotspots, which isn't much to use. We'll use one right now. You can see it shows there and there. It's very, very brief and very easy to miss. And there's some areas in the game, especially towards the, I would say about the 2/3 mark of the first chapter, that the game is just pitch black, and you're either completely pixel hunting, which there's some of that anyway, or you are, using the end system. The game tries to get away from moon logic, just complete nonsensical, puzzles. But to do that, it tries to get logical and requires pixel hunting. Which I'll give you a good example. We'll go up here, we'll have a short conversation here, we'll meet another character.
Thanks.
Oh, that actually made no sense, did it?
Pardon me.
No problem. The uniform is waterproof. Mr.
Lucien. Professor Edgar Lucien.
Oh, a professor.
Well, where's Marianne?
Are you a scientist? Do you teach at the Sorbonne?
No, I work at the British Museum in London.
You don't say.
You just said.
So, you were, shall we say, an eyewitness to the burglary 2 days ago?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Oh, no?
Well, there was a lot of commotion, but I didn't really pay much attention to it.
There was a break-in in your museum, and it didn't concern you?
Well, let's just say that nothing that's happened in the last 2,000 years concerns me.
Oh. So, where are you heading?
May I ask where you are going?
Of course. To Venice.
But right now is room.
Going to meet some colleagues there.
Well, that's not suspicious at all.
A beautiful city, or so I'm told.
Indeed. But I really have to take my leave.
Just a moment, please. The famous inspector...
I do like that they tie in different parts of the conversation a lot more fluidly than other point-and-clicks does, where it just jumps from one conversation to another. This, it leads in a lot smoother. That's a rather nice touch.
Museum? There's a guarded safe on the train?
I'm sorry. I don't know what you're trying to imply. And now, please excuse me.
Just one more thing. Did you notice anything unusual on the train?
Here? On the train? No. I can't say that I have. Although I did spend most of the time in my compartment.
Goodbye.
I don't want to take up any more of your valuable time.
I've already have.
You do understand.
It's teased on ice cold by now.
What concerns me is the present, and especially the robbery at the museum.
Yeah, of course, of course. It's just... I'm in rather a hurry.
Not much of
You'll
one,
get in
obviously.
touch if you notice anything unusual, won't you, Professor?
Of course, Constable. What's this?
What's the matter, sir?
The door. I can't open it.
Ah, we'll sort it out somehow. The
Here.
compartment is locked.
But I didn't lock it. I don't even have a key. I asked the steward. He was going to bring me one, but he never came back.
Someone locked it.
Obviously.
Find the steward. He needs to bring me the key immediately.
Calm down, Professor. I'll see what I can do.
You don't understand. I have to get back in my compartment.
All right, just wait here.
Sheesh, his pennies are in a wad, huh? Let's see if the hints. You can see it pops up there, but also we get more information overall. Lasson's trap. Professor Edgar Lucien. The return of the Raven, and as you unlock things, it fills out the journal. It gives a lot of backstory, actually. Well, let me give you an example of the kind of how this game kind of obscures things. For one, well, we have another conversation.
I don't believe it.
Well, someone's trying to get a date.
I never thought I'd ever meet you.
Pardon me, but we'd prefer... It's all right, Miss Miller.
But you can see how this is very Agatha Christie-esque, where we
Unfortunately,
quickly
just
meet a
Constable, Lady Westmacott,
pretty
I'm
large
reading
cast
the
of
vicarage
characters.
in the mirror right now, for the 5th time at least.
That's nice, Constable.
Zellner. Anton Jakob Zellner.
This is my companion, Miss Miller.
A pleasure.
So, what are you doing
Can I
here?
ask what you're doing here? Are you on holiday?
Holiday? Yes, so to speak. The first and last holiday of my life.
Madam?
That doesn't
I've
sound
been
fun.
painting since I was a little girl. It became my job, and now I've stopped. So, this must be a holiday.
You quit writing? Impossible. I have all of your books. Your Detective Partout is my favorite character.
Then I have bad news for you. I killed the old wretch off years ago.
I don't understand.
I'd rather not discuss my work, Constable.
Oh, well,
Obviously.
Fine.
Oh,
As
goodbye.
much as I like to keep talking, duty calls.
You were right.
Madam?
I did observe you as you came in. You seemed so...
Someone's about to get laid.
It's been a long time since I've had a chance to prove myself, madam.
And this is it. Your chance.
I do hope so.
Then grab it. Even small people can make big changes, as my friend Ronald likes to say.
I shall do my best.
Okay, and that's that small conversation done, but to give you an idea of the pixel hunting here, there's an item here that you need for at least a side portion of the game. Can you spot it? Here, I'll hit the hotspots. Oh, it's right here. Toothpicks.
The steward must have forgotten the toothpicks. Normally he would offer them discreetly after dinner.
But this is also something that's really annoying, is that, okay, well, I'll just examine that. Obviously, that's not going to need to be used again, but it does. And it does this often. Once you wrap your head around this logic that you need to use something until it's no longer interactable, so you can see now I can't click on that anymore, then you need to use it until then, or until they start repeating themselves, like, most adventure games. And that's really the extent of the moon logic. Everything else I've encountered so far...
Butterscotch.
Here's another
I've
good
loved them
example.
Since I was a child. Their only drawback, they don't play nice with false teeth.
And once again, we click it again.
Maybe if I just suck it.
Oh, you naughty boy. But, yeah, once again, well...
Who'd have thought that one day butterscotch would remind me of my age and of all the things I had to leave behind?
And now I can't click on it again. Granted, only needed to click it 2 of the 3 times, but the place still... It still holds true, where a lot of the puzzles, if you're stuck on them, you just didn't click something enough. And I'm not sure if that's a weakness of the game or not. And once again, you can see some rather nasty jaggies there. At least I think that's jaggies. Maybe the design of the train compartment, but considering the jaggies there, I'm going with probably not. So let's pop outside and I'll show you one other instance. It's right here. Very easy to miss. But
A box with a padlock. I suppose it contains tools for the train's crew, maybe for coupling and uncoupling the cars. At any rate, it's positioned so that it's easier to reach from the ground than from up here.
and with that line right there, I went for a long time without clicking it again. Because, in most games, whenever there's a line like that... Oh, as I almost get killed.
Matt, have you gone mad?
I'll shoot.
With a line like that, you would expect not to be able to access it at all.
You'll get
But,
it back in Venice.
turns
I
out
could have
that's not
stolen
such the
under
case.
wheels.
I thought you were a ghost.
Ghosts don't exist.
They do too. One just flew past the window.
Yes, sure.
Oh, there's a
Now
hint.
Get moving.
Oh, man.
Well, somebody's in trouble. But yeah, with a line like that in other games, you wouldn't be able to
box
do
is
that.
Secured with a padlock. I won't be able to open it without a key.
At least with that attitude. But there's a lot of logic puzzles like that where the game doesn't progress unless you use it multiple times, which is incredibly frustrating, and it does give that hint eventually in the loading screens. But if you're unlucky on the draw with the loading screens, well, you're out of luck, essentially. And I think that's really about it. I will say that it's very archaic. If you're a fan of the older 2000 or early 2000s style of point-and-click adventure, I think you'll enjoy this a lot more than if you're used to the Telltale stuff. But overall, it's not a bad game. It's just, it requires to get into the headspace, not quite the same way that other point-and-clicks do. So I'll just sit here and chatter away, because if I go back in there, there's another conversation. We don't need to hear another conversation right now. Or if I go in here, there's also a conversation, so I'm kind of flanked by conversations. And this game does get very, very, very chattery. Not a bad thing. This is a heavily story-driven point-and-click adventure. But if you're not looking for something that it has a lot of story in it, but you're looking for something that's more adventure or more puzzle-based, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Granted, there are some mini-games towards the end of the first chapter, and I'm assuming that it'll continue on into the second and third chapters, where it breaks up the dialogue with a mini-game. I played Shuffleboard, for example, at one point. So you'll get an idea of it's more than just a point-and-click adventure, which is fine. I mean, that's a nice way to break things up. But if you're not looking for something that has many games in it, you're also going to be a little disappointed. But I think I've rattled on quite long enough, so as always, constructive feedback is greatly appreciated as in the comments below, or if you don't really have anything to say but want to let me know that you've enjoyed or hated this, press the appropriate buttons and subscribe if you see more of the Sunday Sampler or my other content. A little light on gameplay showing this time, but this is point and click, and I want to try to avoid spoiling the story as much as I can, so it's either this or I try to go down a side path, which doesn't always work out all that well. So I'll say thank you for watching, and we'll be back to sample something again next time.